The Mitsubishi ASX Facelift, or also in the US called Outlander Sport. The full review is today on Autogefühl, your #1 resource for in-depth car reviews and your #1 community to discuss cars. Today with me, with Thomas. Going to take a detailed look at exterior, interior and the driving experience and everything of that as usual in full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go! The main change with the facelift is exactly here, the front. There's a new front grille design. Mitsubishi calls it shield. I'm not exactly sure how that should be a shield, but you know, that's how the marketing calls it. You can see that the hood does not continue to the very front. This is to get down insurance costs and also, you know, in case of a front crash, also for crash safety, that you only have to replace this one here. And also the headlights have a new form now. I would like to hear your opinion, how you like the new front of the ASX or Outlander Sport. 4.33 m or 14'3" is the total length, so a really small SUV. And this segment here is surging at the moment still worldwide. The design overall is pretty simple. There's, you know, little stands here on the height of the door handle. The top trim levels, called top or plus for example, or SEL, so on. Different on the market. 18-inch rims, then you can get those optional, I think pretty stylish, those wheels. You can also go with smaller ones, of course. There's a black roof rail right there, chrome frame at the lower part of the windows. This car is not screaming out too much, it wants to rather be conservative, and indeed it is a rather conservative SUV in a small segment here. 20,000 euros starts in Germany, up to 35,000 in the highest trim with the biggest engine in the combination. What do you think about side profile? What I forgot with the headlights, by the way, they start from halogen and then xenon optional, and the taillights here, they resemble the headlights pretty much. Looks almost like a copy, doesn't it? And then, I mean, it's also again not too daring, so overall a rather conservative design to please as many customers as possible. What do you think about the overall design? Engines. It starts with a 1.6 liter petrol engine with 120 horsepower. Then the US gets a 2 liter naturally aspirated engine, 150 horsepower, 2.4 naturally aspirated with 170 horsepower, or as we see here right now, diesel for Europe, 1.6 liter with 120 horsepower, or here 2.2 diesel with 150 horsepower. That's the one we're having today, together with all-wheel drive and automatic. And 0 to 100 kilometers or 60 miles an hour. The small ones go about 11 seconds, the bigger ones 10 seconds. Car key, pretty simple. Keyless entry function is controlled right here, but at the moment the rear hatch is opened. Door closing sound is, I would say, normal. Inside of the doors we have soft plastics on the top part. Then we got a leatherette cover right there. Automatic window just for the front, for the driver window. Other than that, all manual. And got some space for bottles right there, or for example for a case. Rest of the interior, this is the top trim level, or also called plus, depending on the market, or SEL. I would not recommend it because it directly comes with animal skin seats. Then the whole interior smells like chemicals. The lower trim level offer fabric seats. You will save money and it's also better for the climate comfort. The steering wheel has been updated, has this black shiny elements inlet here now. So it looks a little bit fancier. Also the buttons at the steering wheel have been updated. This is basically one of the biggest changes. Soon more to the infotainment system. But you already see that this interior is, you know, rather styled simple. Let's take it that way. Let's get inside. And the good thing is, although it's a small SUV, you already have this upright seating position. That means no back pain also for taller people, for longer drives. I like that. Here we got electric seats. You can move them in all different ways, but you'll find your position. Then the steering wheel can be adjusted manually, but it doesn't go too high actually. But I think I did found a quite good driving position, although I felt that for me the seat should be going a little bit lower, also because in combination with the panoramic roof, I'm 1.86 m or 6'1", I'm very, very close to the seating already. Cockpit overview, you see it's dominated by this middle console inlet. This is also soft touch plastic, by the way, just the very top here is hard. And most annoying is really the sound. When you open the door and have the ignition turned on, beep, 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 beep. But even if you have the door closed and then start it, why? Why does it always beep when just turning the ignition on? And then you can really have some beeping orchestra. I mean, it's like, what? Yeah, I mean, okay, about that. Other than that, everything is pretty simple. You see the steering wheel also with some nicely designed shifting pedals for the automatic. New 6.1 infotainment screen with some updates, soon more details to that. And below that we got those old school style AC unit knobs. What is strange, in the lowest part, you maybe also hear that on camera, it's already pretty strong from the vents, and then gets even louder right there. That's normal, but even the lowest part I would expect to be a little bit less loud temperature than next to it. And below there you can, for example, put smartphone at the very lower part and also have the controls for the seat heating. Infotainment, it's not capacitive, so I cannot zoom in and out like in a smartphone. I can lead the map, but I cannot use two fingers right there. Phone can be connected via Bluetooth. I mean, that's the most important for me. Other than that, it's not really an intuitive system. You're always searching for, there's nothing you need here, just the map button maybe to get there again. And then if you put in GPS, everything takes really long. So the software is really, I don't know. The only fancy element is this one here. If you want to put a CD in there, you can, hey, wow, cool effects like the monitor right there. But other than that, I'm not sure. I hope in your market you maybe get a different one. So even though it's facelift update, that didn't really do much. The instruments are pretty clear to read, also with this nice chrome ring around it and a small digital screen for consumption, or for example also for the fuel status. And you see at the kilometers, this car is still pretty fresh. Then the gear lever for the automatic. I'm satisfied with the automatic. Just, they could have put just a straight line to go from P to D and not this step design, pretty old school. I'm not sure why they're still doing that. What has been updated is this one here, this knob for the all-wheel drive. You just press it for two-wheel drive, all-wheel drive or all-wheel drive lock, and then the vehicle also decides on its own. More details to that when I drive it later. Cup holders right there, not adaptive, but they are quite deep, so bottles will be held relatively tight. Then the armrest here could be a little bit more attached, I think. It is split, so you can have this case, or below that there's a USB power charger, for example, and reasonable space inside. Now to the rear compartment. I got the seat as I would be driving, and well, that means for 4 adults, the back is soft. You will probably feel it as a driver. So I think 4 people of 175 meters, 5'8", that would still fit. But when you have tall drivers, there's no knee room left here. Also with the panoramic roof, no headroom left really. The position itself is upright, also very comfortable. So if you're not too tall, you'll be just fine. Then there's an armrest with 2 beverage holders on the inside, and we also do flip the seats from here. You press down here, button, and then it's some more power. There we go. Here, and then there it is. Could be wrapped a little bit tighter here at the back part of the seats. I would say let's take a look at how it looks from the trunk. So here we go. pretty good dimensions, also some space more below that. So this is well usable. And then you can also flip the other side in a 1/3, 2/3 split. And then you can unleash, well, the seat belt, you always have to loosen it up. Here, unleash the full potential of this vehicle. So I think you can live with that. And optional, we have the big bass boost here today. Welcome to the driving part. 2.2 liter diesel, 150 horsepower. It's the top engine for this vehicle, at least in Europe. And as the vehicle is not exactly very heavy, you also have quite good performance then for that, also when you're going on the motorway, for example. So let's do some 80 to 100. For example, could be an overtaking sprint. Plop. That was 100. So reasonable speed for that. The diesel is not too loud. However, the sound installation in general of the vehicle is rather mediocre. You maybe also hear it on camera. Just driving over 100 kilometers an hour right now, and you know, it's actually quite loud. So I have to raise my voice quite a lot. So other than that, you have a good overview to all of the sides. Windows stand rather upright. You can see very well when vehicles are approaching. The steering is pretty light. It's not really the most natural feeling one, but you don't need much force to turn it around. That's of course heavy. What the hell? So that happened. Well, you always have to calculate with strange behaviors of other participants in public traffic. So back to our review. So you see that the steering characteristic is rather light. So I mean, it's very easy to control the vehicle, but you don't really have a sporty feeling in the steering wheel. You don't sit too high for an SUV, so it is not too far away from the feeling from a normal passenger car. Could be an entry into the SUV world for you, for example. You could take it like that. And then there's usually a front-wheel drive mode. You can change it with the knob central part, but also just leave it in the 4WD mode when the vehicle decides it has front wheel at the start. As soon as you apply more throttle and maybe there's a slippery situation, then also torque is distributed to the rear axle. So that is done by the vehicle itself. And if you want to go off-road with this, I had some off-road rides with this one a couple of years ago, and it was really amazing. So it looked like a small city SUV, but it is really off-road capable. You wouldn't guess that. And there's also a all-wheel drive lock function. Then for the differential lock, well, you only need that in really harsh off-road situations. Most of the customers probably will not use that with this vehicle. Consumption-wise, so you can get this diesel to 6 liters on 1 kilometers. It is actually a realistic figure if you take it slowly. However, you can also score more. If you really push it, then it will rather go up to about 7. Considering the size of the vehicle, this should be lower. So low consumption is not really the favorite discipline here. That's for sure. Here again, when we test a little bit of steering characteristic, you see it doesn't give you any resistance. The suspension is rather set on a comfortable ride, so we do have some side tilting, so no sporty SUV at all. It's also not really necessary for it. Suspension, when I'm going over to some harsher bumps now, it is a little bit transported to the passengers. It's not really a bad suspension, but it's also not one I would say it is superb. I think the key element of this vehicle is when you get inside, start driving, you can immediately feel acquainted. So it's not a vehicle that you would have to learn. It's really easy, especially if you're driving with the automatic. So you get along pretty well then. Maybe, well, besides the infotainment system. If you have to control that one, especially while driving, you better don't do that. So, because it's, as I explained earlier, not really an intuitive one. So, I mean, looking at it is quite okay. You can also change this day and night mode, for example, when it gets a little bit darker. But other than that, I'm not sure what they thought about the software. However, if you're in another market in Germany, you will surely have another infotainment software. And then it might be a little bit different. So I'm looking forward to your feedback if you have some other infotainment software. So let's check out what about the blind spots. We don't have an assistance system for the blind spot here, but the side mirrors are relatively large considering the size of the vehicle, so that's pretty much okay. With the automatic here, you can also use the shifting pedals. They look quite fancy, actually. You can shift back then, go to a lower gear, shift up again. And the automatic is doing it actually quite smooth. So when there's a gear change, when you press just a little bit on throttle, you hardly realize the gear changes. So I'm pretty satisfied with the automatic. Yeah, I mean, it also pushes up the price then for this vehicle segment. And as I said earlier, it is actually worth when you don't want to spend too much money. Then you of course have to think about every extra you pick. However, I'm usually a fan of the automatic because it just gives you so much more comfort. And depending on the offer you get, of course, then it can't really hurt. Other than that, I mean, you have this strange step mechanism to get from D to P, for example. But at least you don't realize it. As soon as you have it in D once, then it's basically done, and that's it. With this panoramic roof, you maybe also see that on camera. It's pretty light in this interior. Of course, it will get hot then in really warm temperatures, but you can at any time, as I showed earlier, close the sunroof, and as it goes all the way, this cover, then it should also protect you very well against the sun. However, it will, while driving, always get hotter with this kind of solution than with other vehicles. So last step here on the motorway again, then we can show another acceleration, what the diesel is capable of. Maybe we can also shift down ourselves before. If I'm just rather, I was rather rolling downhill and now steady speed, I can also get this vehicle to 5 liters consumption. Is possible too, but not a long-term realistic figure. So now, for example, I'll shift back to the third gear, 75, 80, 85, 100. So you see, especially if you put it in the lower gear, quite good acceleration with the diesel. And you also heard that noise a little bit louder. It's not really a very new engine, so you hear that a little bit. 100 is still speed where you say, yeah, it's okay. You can also set the cruise control in here. It's normal cruise control. You set it and it keeps a steady speed. So no ACC for this vehicle. I mean, it's not a vehicle that is standing out, but it's also not at all a vehicle that would be bad in any way. So I think this is really the characteristic of this vehicle. It's not standing out to anything, not screaming out. It wants to fit to as many customers as possible and tries to be rather, mediocre in every single element, of the driving and also all around, so that it pleases as many customers as possible. And I mean, it's a very successful car. So worldwide, this is also the concept. And even though you smell a little bit of the chemicals being used for the leather seats here, that's something should be better with the fabric seats, as I mentioned earlier. But other than that, it's a good city vehicle which you use every day and don't think so much about owning which car you actually have. Just that you have a utility vehicle, small SUV as it is. Not sure if you see it on camera, but we got a lot of insects here as company now, so they obviously also love to watch Autogefühl. I hope you enjoyed this episode too. Exterior of the ASX or Outlander Sport. I mean, with the new refreshed front, I think it's pretty nice. Overall, rather timeless design. rather also conservative. Inside, you know, it's not really special. Some materials would need a little tweaking, so especially if you compare it to the competitors, that's where this vehicle especially lags behind a little bit. On the other hand, it's very uncomplicated, and my advice is take a low trim level for this one. Really take it, okay, you know, I need an SUV for little money, and then it also, you know, keeps what it's promising. So if you go for the lower trims, get a good entry price, then you just have a vehicle you can get along with every day and don't have to think about much about the budget, or you know, not something, you know, would say taking care of the vehicle every day too much. Just use it, you know, and then I think this would be the real purpose of this vehicle, and then it makes sense. Driving wise, I mean, it was rather soft from the suspension, also not the sportiest ride, but it did actually a quite good job, especially easy to handle inside the city. That's where the vehicle is home. But you know, maybe from a later review, this has serious off-road capabilities still. That is also one unique thing about Mitsubishi for sure. Thank you so much for tuning in. Also see us at the next Autogefühl episode. Thank you, and tell me what you think about this vehicle in the comments.